Hello, Steeler Nation. Welcome to Stryker's Inside Slant. What a great first week we had. I know a bunch of you joined me on the show right after the game. I was at home, so I was able to do a post game, and I'm at least happy now that I've gotten time to think about it and talk about it and review the film on the road, foreign conditions, difficult game, brand new quarterback, actually starting our backup brand new quarterback in his first game. Little shaky in the first quarter, 2 drops on the ground for fumbles, gained 3 yards off of one of those fumbles, though, fortunately. Missed 2 wide open plays that could have gotten us a first down, and second, probably a decent run and catch and run from Najee. But outside of that, he was clean. No bad passes after that moment. Nothing that could have been intercepted. Didn't put the ball back on the ground. I am cautiously optimistic on Justin Fields' performance. Did just enough to make sure that we won that football game. And the biggest thing was making sure we did not turn that football over. Guys, this is your show. Questions, concerns, whatever you got, come at me. Kenny Beamer first on the show. Let's go. That's it, Cooley. Kings of the North. Wouldn't have it any other way, guys. Absolutely would not have it any other way. A bunch of stuff happened today. Well, not a bunch of stuff, but Steelers did try out 4 people today. 3 of them were cornerbacks. One was Caleb Hayes, Anthony Johnson, and Cameron McCutcheon. They also tried out a wide receiver by the name of Shaquan Davis, and he was actually signed, according to Aaron Wilson, at Aaron Wilson _NFL's Twitter. Thank you so much, Aaron Wilson, for providing that info for us. From the little information that I brought up on Shaquan Davis, he's a big guy from South Carolina State. 6'5", 217 pounds, fairly productive in the MEAC, and led them in receiving one year in 2021. Spent some time on New Orleans. Just a big guy, athletic guy. Right now, he's assigned to the practice squad, so not sure how he's going to work into the system, but another guy that can do it for us and hopefully be there for us moving forward. Another thing I wanted to bring up here too quickly, Steelers re-signed, of course, to the roster 2 former Steelers. One in Corliss Waitman. Of course, we had to re-sign. We had to sign a punter because we just lost Cam for the freaking year, and that kills me. Absolutely, because we've been looking for a punter. We've never had a punter. Steelers have never had a punter. Sepulveda, before he wrecked his ACL, maybe the best thing we've ever had at punter. That's it. I can't think of anybody else that was even like consistent or great from the punting perspective. Cam was our best one. We tried and failed to get Lee a long time ago from the 49ers before he re-signed his contract. We tried to pick him up as a restricted free agent and offered him a contract, but we ended up giving the 49ers their contract to sign him with. So Waitman's back on the roster. We're back to square one. That we're back to normal 40-ish yards maximum. He's good at keeping it out of the end zone. That's one of the things that we like about our punters. And if that's the case, that's all you can be. He's not going to flip a field on you. He's just not. Cam could. He's not. So good luck, Corliss. I hope you do well for us. I hope you punt above what you normally have been and that I've seen in the past. But welcome back to the squad, as well as Edmonds. You guys know about me and Edmonds. Edmonds is probably one of my least favorite draft picks ever. Couldn't stand him as a starter. Could not stand him as a starter. Stryker, do you like him now? We're going to bring him back. How do you feel about him bringing back Edmonds? You hate Edmonds. I'll tell you what I think about it now. I love it. Absolutely love it. Why? Why? Oh, you're a hypocrite, Stryker. No. Love it. Why? Because he's not the starter. Why? Because he's not even the backup. We're bringing him back on for special teams and for depth. And to have a guy like Edmonds' caliber for special teams and depth is an immediate upgrade over anybody third or lower on this roster. Like, I'm looking at my roster right now for the defense that we have and the safeties that we have. Obviously, he's not going over the starters. Elliott and Fitzpatrick and KZ. I put KZ as the backup at both positions before I put Edmonds on the field. Honestly, do, because Watts was placed on IR. Watts was ahead of Edmonds. He's better than Killebrew. better than Killebrew. Jalen Elliott, you can make an argument for, but he's definitely better than Killebrew. So I think he's locked in right now as a backup, but I honestly insert KZ at both spots before I do Edmonds, but I'd love to see Edmonds out there on kick coverage. I think that's why we brought him in. I think he can do that job, and I'm looking forward to him coming back. All righty, time for your questions. Robert, can we find a wide receiver too? Like I said, it's difficult in the Steelers system to have a Z receiver be the number one receiver. It's happened the only ones I can even remember getting better stats, Lewis Lips as a Z, and Santonio Holmes, who still had Hines Ward on the other side of him. I mean, that's it. Wallace, maybe you can make an argument for as a Z, but I mean, we still had Brown, we still had Sanders, two other guys to help him out too. But this is the first year, like, since essentially Lewis Lips' year, where we do not have an X receiver. We have 0 X receivers. Jefferson is supposed to be the X guy. I need him to get open more. Same thing with Miles Austin. I need him to get open more too. So those guys, we need to get open more. We don't have an answer. We did not win out in the Ayuk trade. If we did, we'd be Moneyball right now. Absolutely would have been Moneyball right now. If we drafted your Houston guy, we would have been Moneyball right now, but we're not. We're not. We don't have an X. Adam Baum! Welcome back, Bob. Good to see you again, my friend. Let's go, Stryker. Here we go, Steelers. Miles! Hi, Stryker. That's it, baby. And Edmonds is good depth at least. Exactly, Miles. Like, that's what I've been talking about, too. Like, don't like him as a starter at all. Do not ever want to see him on the field as a starter, but special teams, hell yes. If we get enough injuries and he has to come up, then I'm happy he's on the field. But for us right now, basically having him as number 3 behind our top 2 and behind KZ backing up both spots, I'm happy for him to be on the team. Absolutely am. I think that's a good value pickup, and he's better than our depth. Made our roster stronger in that move, and we're paying him nothing. Absolutely paying him nothing, which is important when you're trying to build up rosters. And this roster, like, one of the positions that we've killed just since bringing on Omar Khan, that was a negative, we were dead in the water. Actually, 2 positions I'll bring up. We were dead in the water until we got Omar Khan. And that is, one, at nose tackle. Now we're thick. Keanu Benton is a monster now. And we have Montravis Adams, who just got his first sack since 2018. Awesome job, Adams. Nose tackle is no longer an issue. The other one was inside linebacker. What are our inside linebackers? Mark Robinson is the only one that still returns from those Kevin Colbert teams. We got Patrick Queen. We got Roberts. We got Peyton Wilson that we brought in. We got Tyler Matakevich back, who I like his depth. And, of course, Mark Robinson as well, who I like just as a strength player. Holcomb's out right now, unfortunately. He's good depth. He can play when he's up, and he'll probably surpass Tyler Matakevich when he's healthy. But that has been a big boon. The only spot we have not 100% fixed yet is the nickel cornerback with Beanie Bishop. I think that's going to be fixed when Cam Sutton comes back after week 8. Then we're good. But until that point, we got to save ship until he can come back, and he will start. He will honestly be the starter when he gets back on this roster. A couple things I wanted to talk about last game as well. Just make sure we got some comments here. Get to your comments here quickly. Robert, why the hell did they have Calvin Austin III out wide trying to block on a wide receiver screen? Not that Pickens did any better. Honestly, he should have gotten the ball. In that set, he should have gotten the ball. But Pickens did not even touch it. Like, he whiffed. Both of them whiffed. It was a horrible, horrible blocking scheme. It's a decent play call. I thought it worked out. Like, it was a 3-on-2. You should win a 3-on-2 to at least get 5 yards. every time on a wide receiver screen. Both of our guys whiffed their blocks. Bad execution, decent play call because it was there. 3-on-2, you want those numbers. You want your guy to make a play. Our guy did not make the play. Kenny Beamer! Feed the ball to Pat. Earn that bag. Yep. Pat Freiermuth was number 2 on receiving last week, just behind, of course, the only real viable target other than Pat Freiermuth, in my opinion, except for Najee Harris, except for Warren. Warren was number 3. He had 2 receptions. And then you had a bunch of guys with 1 catch. Ball was spread around a bit. Guys, cheers to you, Steeler Nation. I'm drinking Blueberry Truly tonight. Watching my figure. I've been drinking a little bit too much beer. Starting to get a little bloated. Back onto the seltzers and whiskey for me. But I'm with you, Kenny. The more Pat, the better. Marcy, welcome to the game. Welcome to the show, Marcy. Guys, the Facebook is working. Thank you so much to Justin and Brandon over at Steeler Nation for making sure that the Facebook link was active now. I'm seeing your Facebook likes. Guys, like, share, go over to @SN Stryker on TikTok and follow me because I want to start doing lives on TikTok as well. But thank you so much, Marcy, and I'm glad that Facebook's active. What's your question? Tomlin is always putting money on the defense. Look at the defense now. The defense won us the game, Marcy. Absolutely loved it. Loved the way that once the second half started, it felt like they could not move the ball on us. I was confident at end game when we got that last interception. There's still like 3.5 minutes on the clock, even if we turn the ball back over, which we did on downs, that we're going to win the game. This is a game we are going to win. Because I didn't think they could move the football the entire way down the field to score 8 points. And that is what happened. We had just enough points to win. Marcy, Tomlin always put money on the defense. Definitely. We talked about that. Offense sucks. Now, here is where I will disagree with you politely, Marcy. Offense didn't score touchdowns, but the offense did score on 6 out of 10 drives. One of those drives being a turnover on downs where we were well within field goal range, and we can argue back and forth whether or not we should have gone for that field goal. I personally thought we should have ran to the line of scrimmage and not snapped the ball and drew them all sides because those guys were ready to jump over the line of scrimmage. They were ready. We could have drawn them all side, gotten the easy first down, probably punched it in the end zone from there. But if you watch the blocking in that game, it's our first game. It was on the road, new system. Zach Frazier and James Daniels. You think their second job was IHOP because those guys were making pancakes. Those guys were killing the people ahead of them, throwing them on their backs. And that is a good thing moving forward for this more rush-heavy RPO offense that Anderson is instituted here in Pittsburgh. And our quarterbacks are way better than what we had last year. I don't feel like we're in a game where we just can't move the football. We just can't we can't get points. We stole points. When you're hitting a 50-yarder and a long 50-yard field goal, especially on the road, that is stealing points. When you force the other team to kick a chip shot field goal, you steal 4 points from that team. That's what our defense did to them. Hell, the defense stole another 7 from them if they got that call right for TJ Watt coming across the line of scrimmage where you're saying defense sucks. Or defense is being spent too much money on the defense. But when you have guys like Cam Hayward, Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt, Highsmith, you got to pay those guys. Those guys are making the plays for you. They really are. Highsmith was a good knockdown on that screen pass. Guys are getting in the backfield. Guys are making plays. And it's fun to watch. But will the offense get better, Marcy? Yes. The offense is going to get better. I expect them to be better. But I'm happier at having 2 new quarterbacks that are not Kenny Pickett, that are not Mitchell Trubisky, that are franchise quarterbacks that were the franchise of their teams and played for their teams for a good amount of time to be able to come into our system and be active and move the football in our system. And Justin Fields did that. Did just that. Outside of the first quarter where he was antsy, he did put 2 balls on the ground, missed 2 wide open guys in the first quarter. After that, he settled down. He had some really tough first downs. One at the first down marker to George Pickens on the right-hand side. And then it followed up another shorter one on the left-hand side right at the sticks. I forget who that one was. But both of them were prime time throws. Difficult throws. The throw that he had at the end of the half when we only had 20-some seconds, and we got 3 points at the end of the half at 20-some seconds. And you guys want to argue, Tomlin sucks at time of possession. He can't do anything. You guys have always been dead wrong at that. You want to know why? Because Tomlin is the winningest head coach, and the Steelers are the winningest team in one-score games for the past, 7 years. One-score games, Steelers are number 1 in the league. It's not a coincidence. The guy knows how to coach. And you win those games by scoring at the end of halves and by scoring at the end of games. That's what we do. That's what we do. Why isn't Pickens blocking? He needs to do better. He's a big boy, and he can block. He just whiffed on that one. He absolutely whiffed on that one. I will agree with that, Marcy. The offense line sucks, bro. No, it doesn't. You're dead wrong. Watch the film. Watch the film. They're starting to come together. The tackles did a good job of keeping people off the fields. You're trying to tell me they suck. I can see instances where they did break down, but I saw more positives than I saw negatives on that team. It's not like, remember last year, teams where everybody was lining up on the line of scrimmage. Rushes would get hit in the backfield or at the line of scrimmage every play. And the only reason why we had yardage was because of Najee Harris and Warren. Breaking tackles and making yardage. Putting stiff arms down. Blocking one guy into another guy to go around the end. Najee on 2 guys still getting 10 yards on a play. Because he blocked a guy. He stiff-armed one of their players into another player. Ran around him and got 10 yards. That was our offense last year. It was atrocious. And we didn't have an identity. The blocking scheme identity is different this year, Marcy, because last year we were more of a finesse blocking team. We were blocking in space. Now we have a new offensive coordinator who's go kill the guy in front of you. And go watch it. Watch the game film. Go over to Steeler Depot. Alex Kozora broke down the game film on Frazier. Killer game film on Frazier. I mean, you're dead wrong if you think he's bad. He had an incredible game. Incredible game. And I highly recommend you checking that stuff out because I see way more positives than negatives. Sure, we're going to have trouble when we start facing some teams with some excellent front sevens. Chargers are going to be the first big test. Chargers are absolutely going to be the first big test. Fields was better than I expected. I'm with you there, Robert. I really am too. I was quietly optimistic. I know he can run a team. I'm worried about his fumbles. And of course, he did put 2 fumbles down to the ground, got it out of his way early. Fortunately, we weren't like them and fumbled it off the guy that's in motion because Steeler Nation would be nuts and going all upset about that crap if that happened to us. But fortunately, TJ Watt did make that play and got the fumble that he deserved after forcing 2 that got called back. Robert, Pickens almost messed up that play at the end of the half. I can see he thought he could get past the first guy and try to score, but he was lucky he had slid out of bounds. And I agree with that too. You do have to recognize that point in game. I think the only other time it was the end of the first half against the Miami Dolphins. And it was a play that we threw down the middle of the field deep. And this is I thought it was a Ben Roethlisberger play off of it was like an all-out blitz. Everybody came, and he hit Brown in the middle of the field. And I don't think we had timeouts. He could have gotten out of bounds, but he made one play and we got a touchdown out of it. And then, of course, we ended up winning that game in the second half pretty big off of that momentum. Sometimes playmakers are going to make the plays for you, and it's up to them to decide if they think they can make that play. In that situation, it was the wrong play. But I'm with you. Fortunately, his foot went out of bounds. We didn't have to worry about it. We could kick the field goal. We got the points on the board, and those are points that we needed to make sure that we could win this game easily. Absolutely, so we can win it easily. Okay, how about 32 points? You can't win on field goals, okay? But you can win a game when the other team's scoring 10. We've got... There's this other thing on football. The other side of the football is called defense. And we've got a damn good one this year. And they are fun to watch. We have a disruptive front seven that looks like it's going to control not only the line of scrimmage, but also be very disruptive in the passing game by collapsing those pockets quickly. Hell, you saw TJ Watt get in under 2 seconds on a play that they called him offside. He was in there under 2 seconds. That's not even enough time for a quarterback to receive the snap and look up. Another team's not going to score that well on it. And this is the time right now we're going to be working on our defense to get better, which they are. They're starting to gel, and we want them to gel. We had 2 brand new guys making plays for us that weren't on our team last year. I mean, I've got to give it up to Deshaun Elliott at strong safety and Dante Jackson, the other DJ that we got in the DJ trade. Those guys made the plays. They got interceptions for us. And hell, dropped one they should have had in the first half. That Jackson could have had 2 interceptions in that game. Jackson had a hell of a game. Batted some down. A lot of good hands. And what I like seeing out of this defense is our defenders being right there at the wide receiver, other than the touchdown. That was the only time they had a free wide receiver, it looked like, all game. So we did a really, really good job. We're going to get better moving forward. We got talent everywhere. Absolute talent everywhere. So, yeah, would you like to score 32 points? Hell yes. And I think, honestly, with Fields and with Russell Wilson, we can do that. I really do. We just had a game we scored 6 times. It just happened that all 6 of those scores were field goals. You turn 2 of those into touchdowns. What's that? That's 4 field goals at 12 points plus 14 points. That's 26 points, which should be about the average of what we're scoring this year. This to me looks like a 25-point roster. So, yeah, we're going to have some games where we score in the 30s. We're going to have some games where we score in the teens. But with this defense, I think we can beat anybody this year. Absolutely. Oh, and I'm with you there. Big Ben, miss him. Me too. I got my Big Ben back here. Where's my Big Ben? Up on the top. Big Ben's up on the top there. He's always looking over on the show. Ride or die with some Big Ben. Love him. Robert Watt had a great game. Had 2 sacks taken away with penalties and more with missed holding. Yeah, I can't believe that. And the only holding call they got was the one that cost our punter his ACL and MCL. That's complete crap. I was mad. That was the play where if you're anywhere near the Stryker household with all the windows open, you heard me swearing up a freaking storm. The ineptitude of those referees to cost our team a punter. Forced us to re-kick. Absolute. That was horrific. That was a horrific play. Absolute horrific play. And it should have at least been both of them were called. At the very least, because he did, even though he was held, he lunged himself at the punter. So he lunged himself toward that plant leg, which is roughing the kicker, which should have given the Steelers a first down. Absolutely should have. Chris, on Christmas Day and last half of the season, no offense. Heck yeah. Last season sucked. We haven't had an offense in 3 years. Fichtner and Canada were horrific. The only time we had any offense was when Mason Rudolph was playing. He was the only one that could generate points. We have a different offense this year. This isn't last year's offense. This is actually an NFL scheme. We're not getting a whole lot of negative plays this year, aside from George Pickens running backwards 10 yards, which is something you cannot do as a wide receiver, taking a handoff. You cannot run backwards behind the line of scrimmage. You have to go at the line of scrimmage, parallel, or run forward. Find a way to not lose too much yardage to put you in a terrible position. You should never lose 9 yards on a running play, ever, outside of a fumbled snap. There's no way you should lose 9 yards on a running play. But this is not last year, year before that's offense. This is going to be closer to though I don't know how much football you watch. If you watched Tennessee for the past few years, if you saw Tannehill make it to the AFC Championship game as the 1 seed, Tennessee was the 1 seed 1 year in the AFC, and it was because of this offense. That's something that I could see happening. And I think Fields and Russell Wilson are better than Ryan Tannehill. I honestly do. Ben is the GOAT. I cannot disagree with you there, Mike. Absolutely can't disagree with you there. Yeah, and just checking out, I'm going to check out the I'm going to go to the scores here quick just to go over the stats that and some interesting things that I saw in the stats to give me some excitement moving forward. I don't know if you guys are going to be excited as I am. One big thing you got to see, we held them scoreless in the second half. That's a big stat that a lot of teams covet. That's pretty big, especially at their home base. And if you heard the crowd in the second half, it sounded like a Steeler home game. Their crowd was silent. Their crowd knew what we knew watching the game. This is a game where they can't move the football. It looked like us with Duck Hodges. I'm like, we can't move the football. We just can't move the football. I'm not comfortable with us ever moving the football with Duck Hodges at quarterback, or with Trubisky at quarterback, or with Kenny Pickett at quarterback outside of the fourth quarter. Like, I just hope it's close enough so we can make a play toward the end of the game and maybe win it. But fairly efficient for Justin Fields, 17 for 23, 156 yards. No touchdowns, yet no interceptions as well. Najee was 70 yards on 20 carries. That was good. Justin Fields did add 57 yards on 14 carries, 4-yard average. Cordell Patterson was getting a lot of balls. That's one of the reasons also why Jaylen Warren didn't get a whole lot of touches. A lot of you guys are like, Warren needs to be out there. They suck. Fire the offensive coordinator. He's not getting any carries. It's because they gave him to Cordell Patterson, because he's the third down back, and Warren's came into this game banged up. We didn't even know if he was going to play. He was questionable. We don't have to force him back. He'll be working his way back, and he's going to be a big part of this offense moving forward, which I love. Pickens was the man on offense, 6 receptions, 85 yards, followed by Freiermuth, 4 for 27, off of 4 targets, caught all 4 of his targets. Same thing with Warren, 2 of his 2 targets for 13 yards. Najee had 2 targets. The one was way behind him. The second one he got for 9 yards on a nice catch and run. Pruitt with 9 off a catch. Calvin Austin was 7 yards off a catch. Darnell Washington was the first down, the other first down that I remember now, with that one catch off of 5 yards. Van Jefferson, 1 catch, 1 yard, being the starting X receiver with only 2 targets and 1 catch is not good enough. Not good enough. Steelers target the X at least 8 times a game. This is as bad as it was last year when Austin had to start at the X when Deontay Johnson was hurt. Those were the games we could not move the football at all. And I told everybody going into those games on the show, I say, look out, because Deontay Johnson is the reason why this offense moves. And it moved through him last year. Absolutely did. He was getting the targets. He was getting the catches. Yeah, he put a couple on the ground, but he was getting 8 targets a game consistently. Van Jefferson, 1 target, 2 targets, not good enough. You got to get open. 1 fumble accrued to Justin Fields. Talked about the interceptions already with Elliott and Jackson. They also gave Elliott 2 passes defensed and Jackson 2 passes defensed. Alex Highsmith, also the one we mentioned already, getting that pass defense in the backfield as well. Minkah Fitzpatrick leading us in tackles with 6. Who had the TFLs last game? Adams had a TFL with a sack. TJ Watt had 2 TFLs, 1 on the running play, 1 with a sack to end the game. Walk-off sack. Heck, we haven't had that since the Super Bowl with Woodley. That was the last walk-off sack we had. Awesome stuff. Boz being a monster, 6 for 6, 3 over 50. Incredible. He's now the best field goal kicker percentage-wise, over 50 yards in NFL history. Better than Justin Tucker, which is something I would not have thought until I saw that go up on the screen during the game against Atlanta last weekend. That's something else. Absolutely something else. Cameron Johnson actually was averaging 51 yards a kick. I can't remember the last time we've averaged over 50 yards for a game. Boswell coming in for a 43-yarder that was not returned as well. Really good job there, Boz. Austin with a nice return with 11 yards on his punt return, or 16 yards on his biggest return. That was a great return. What's that? Oh, that's just punts. And that's, yeah. So the 43-yard average for him, 51.5 average for Cameron Johnson off his 2 punts. Not a whole lot of punting, guys. Why? Only 3 punts total, because the offense was scoring every time they had the ball and 1 turnover on downs. So, guys, time to go back over to you. Let's talk about some other things. Let's see what else we got to talk about. Mike, welcome to the show, Mike. Couldn't see the game. How was Queen? Queen, I see some other people were talking about that too. Queen was, in my opinion, below the bar for my expectations and how he looked in preseason, how he looked in training camp. I expected him to make more plays than he did and at least wrap up on the tackles when he was next to them, because he allowed some of those tackles to get through. And he slipped through the legs of a couple people. And that was something I was not expecting out of Queen. So hopefully he gets better moving forward, because this game, in my opinion, was not a good one for Queen. And I think he'd also state that as well if you asked him to his face. He knows he can do better. Jordan, Fields played a solid game. Wasn't asked to do too much, but delivered some strikes when called upon. Exactly. Big strike down the field to end the half. And we're yelling about what George Pickens was doing with his feet. That ball was awesome. That sail route, Pickens coming in on a fake post and taking it wide out for a flag sail. Gorgeous route. Thrown perfectly. And it was like a 50-yarder. Like I'm trying to, like, I'm looking at these balls. His 50-yarders look like our 30-yarders from last year. That's how much of a line he's putting those 50-yarders on. He is a great deep ball quarterback, like better than Rudolph. And I was calling Rudolph our best deep ball quarterback for the previous 3 years after Ben lost his arm with that elbow surgery. He could not throw the deep ball anymore, not consistently and not in stride. Fields can fricking do it. He can fricking do it. He's got a stronger arm too than Russell. The Russell just can make damn near every throw on the field. Okay, bro, like your podcast. Thank you, Marcy. I appreciate the interactions. We love everybody here. We will allow every point of view to be heard on this show. You know, I talk to everyone, and I will allow and think about it before I make before I get my 2 cents on it, because we're all Steeler fans. We all love our team, and some of us just have different thoughts. And I've got some crazy thoughts too. You'll hear some thoughts from me that you won't hear from everybody else too. Robert, I was waiting on Renegade to play. Sounded like a home game. Absolutely, man. Wasn't that insane? It got loud. After that deep ball to George Pickens, I was like, whoo, whoo. Terrible towel started flying, and then the next came out the next half. Yeah, they had a couple like plays on special teams, and they were like up a little bit. And then after their 3 and out, that was it for their crowd. They were done. They were done. They never got back in that game. And then we just kept making plays, kept getting interceptions. And the only time they cheered was when the referees helped them out. That was it. That was the only thing that they had to cheer for in that second half, was the referees helping them out. And destroying a punter's plant leg. Fredo, welcome to the show. Cousins had to go silent count. Excellent point, and I'm glad you brought that up on the podcast, because I forgot to talk about it. But you are right. You are absolutely right. I'm trying. Oh, that's right. Ben Roethlisberger saw that on his podcast. He's like, only Steeler Nation can you be anywhere in the United States and have them show up in droves like they did in Atlanta. But that was exactly right. Kirk Cousins had to go silent count because TJ Watt was getting all of the Steeler fans to scream their butts off in that game. You're at home. It should never happen at home. That's why you get 3 points for home field advantage. They had the 3-point home field advantage. It became a wash. Why? Because the Steeler Nation showed up with our terrible towels, and we showed them how to root for the Steelers on 3rd down. That's how it's done. Mary Pastor. Queen was silent. Unfortunately, he was. And I expect him to be better. He's a better player than that. I have to go. Love your podcast. Thank you, Marcy. I'll see you next time, Marcy. Cheers. Jordan thought Zach Frazier played really well. May have the center position figured out finally. You're damn right. I talked about that at the top of the show. He was making pancakes. He was back there with a chef's hat on and a spatula. Guy was throwing guys on their backs, hitting second levels, pushing people around, and he got the hold. The hold happened against him. So, guy can play, strong kid. I'm just hoping he doesn't hit a wall and he's well, because that's what happened to Pouncey his rookie year. He hit the wall, and then he got I think he got banged up too. So he didn't make the Super Bowl that year, and we lost that one in 10. Raymond Vance, going forward, as long as everyone does their job, we should be fine. Let Russ heal, and later will be greater. Yeah, we're in a great situation too, Ray, because we've got, not only do we have a franchise quarterback in Russell Wilson, we have a franchise quarterback in Justin Fields. So we don't need to force Russell Wilson onto the field. We can have Fields on the field. And that's all we need for right now, honestly. Let Fields go out there and bake until Russell's 100%. You're an older guy, Russell. Hell, we're only paying you $1 million. We're paying Fields 3 times as much to be on our team. $3 million. We got like $5 million tied up in quarterbacks. Freaking amazing. We have the best. We're 16 mil. I just looked at the salary cap today. We are 16 million under the cap. This is the biggest cap I've ever seen for the Pittsburgh Steelers during the season. That's a $16 million rollover to next season if we don't use it. That's awesome. That's something that's why some of these teams have like 60 mil, 40 mil in cap space, because they don't spend on anybody. And then they got the next year with the rollover. We got 60 million in cap space. Hey, congratulations. It still suck. Jacksonville's starting to pull themselves out of the basement. Cincinnati never did. Cleveland never did. They used to have huge cap spaces. Cincinnati's a better team, I think, than Cleveland, but Cleveland chose the wrong guy. They hung their franchise on Mr. Touchy-Feely. Nick, Patrick Queen was underwhelming. Agreed. Peyton Wilson will be starting by week 3. I don't know if he's going to be starting, but I definitely like seeing Peyton Wilson getting worked into these games, and he was making plays. I want to see him on some blitzes too. I want to see Patrick Queen on some blitzes. He can do that too. That's a good part of his game. Jordan, if Fields starts this week, plays well, and gets the W, Russ era could be over before it got started. It could be if he plays if he plays like really well. If he goes out there, say we get 4 touchdowns, 30 some points, 1 with his legs, 3 with his arm. Yeah, you got to start thinking about making him your full-time guy. Getting the ball handed off well. Maybe we score another touchdown with the running backs. Fryermuth has a touchdown. Pickens has a touchdown. You got to start thinking about, maybe then. But after this first game, I still say Russell's still the starter. But I do love the ability for Justin Fields to be able to make plays with his legs when the play breaks down, when we get pressure in the backfield too quickly. He got some first downs for us doing that, and I like that out of his game. Miles, I want Russ playing in that revenge game. I would really love for Russ to be playing against Denver this week. Playing against the team that's paying him $38 million. I would love for him to walk out as the starter this week, because he's going to have the biggest chip on his shoulder ever, and he will show everyone in Mile High that it was dumb to get rid of him. That's a competitor. That's the type of competitor that Russ is. That's why I like Russ. Really like him in that respect. Really do. Miles, Bo picks are going to be dominated by TJ. It should be illegal to murder such a young guy. And that's Bo picks. And I think Bo Nix is like Colin Cowherd was like calling him to be like the best quarterback this season from the rookies and doing great. Yeah, he had a hiccup in week 1. Doesn't mean he can't do well week 2. But I feel really badly about this kid going up against our front 7, because our front 7 is a legit front 7. Let me see who they played last week. I just want to check that out quickly too. Because I got to at least do an apples to apples comparison on the team that Denver played last week, so I can give my honest opinion. They played the Seahawks. Okay. They played the Seahawks. Seahawks are a good team with a decent front 7. I don't think their front 7 is near as good as ours. That's going to be an incredibly difficult matchup for Bo Nix now, coming into this game, not only with our front 7 playing the way it is, but showing that our defense knows that ball's coming out under 3 seconds. That makes the secondary's job so much easier when they know that ball's coming out in 3 seconds or under 3 seconds, because it's got to get out because he's getting hit. Can he see a guy coming on his backside or feel that guy Feel that pressure like a veteran like Cousins? Probably not. Is he going to make some mistakes thinking that they're blocked with one guy on TJ Watt or even two guys on TJ Watt and think he's going to be fine that side? Probably not, because he's going to get surprised when that ball falls out of his hands when TJ Watt comes down with the swipe. It's going to happen. TJ is absolutely unblockable this year. You've got a guy that's pissed to high heavens that they gifted Defensive Player of the Year to Myles Garrett, who isn't even the best player in his division. That's the TJ Watt chip on the shoulder. What do I have to do to be Defensive Player of the Year? Other than lead the league in tackles for loss, sacks, every metric above what Garrett had, every metric he led. Every metric. I think there's one that I think he had more than TJ Watt. But like TJ Watt had him on fumbles, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, interceptions, passes defensed, tackles for loss. I mean, it wasn't even freaking close. And they play the same position. Oh, he gets double teamed. Did you see TJ Watt's highlight film? He's doing this through double teams. Guy's a monster. Absolute monster. But that's going to be really difficult for a young quarterback to not. And you just can't, Atlanta Falcons also said, we can't have TJ Watt kill us. That was their game plan. TJ Watt cannot kill us. They had the refs helping out a couple times. But worrying too much about TJ Watt, Highsmith hits you. Adams hits you. Hayward hits you. Okunjobi pushes that pocket back. We've got a front seven, legit front seven. And as soon as Queen starts playing up to his Big Daddy pants, it's going to be sick. It's really going to be sick because he needs to make his plays. And Highsmith has to do a better job at holding the edge on running plays. He was getting gashed on the outside on his side because they were not running to TJ Watt's side at all. At all. Not at all. They kept running up Highsmith's side. And that's where they got all their yardage, was going outside the tackle on Highsmith's side. In between the tackles, Steelers did a really damn good job. Really damn good job. Miles. Spencer Anderson did well playing guard, but part of me wants to see Mason McCormick. Okay, well, that's a valid point. Miles has been on the team a little bit longer than Mason McCormick. He spent the entire year last year on the roster, backing up the entire interior offensive line. I'm glad to finally see him get a shot, a low draft pick coming in, now making some plays and getting a start. He can do better, but, I'm happy that he was making some plays. I really am. Sean Robinson is still awful as usual. Love to see it. Robson. You mean Deshaun Watson? Do you mean Deshaun Watson? Yes. Deshaun Watson was terrible. I watched somebody had a TikTok up of I think it was a radio show. It was a multi-team radio show. And they posted the question, is Deshaun Watson a worse quarterback or a worse human being? Which just made me laugh. It's a fun juxtaposition. Don't get me wrong. He's a horrible human being. 24 counts and counting human being. Horrible, horrible human being. Guy has a problem. Absolute consent problem. But he is a bad quarterback now, and I hope it continues. Couldn't happen to a better city. Nick, especially, before I get to it too, especially since I listened to another podcast that gave the two numbers, 44.5 and 112. And those numbers were Deshaun Watson's quarterback rating and Baker Mayfield's quarterback rating last week. That's what you get for getting rid of a good quarterback. And I remember on the podcast when that happened, I'm like, you pay him. It's like, you keep Baker Mayfield. He's the only guy that has gotten you to the playoffs and won a playoff game. Bill Belichick couldn't even win a playoff game when he cheated his ass off. Nick, is Pickens in the same category as Jamar Chase, CD, Jefferson by the end of the year? Right now, no. I'll tell you my clip, which I said on a couple podcasts this year already. I'm a big receiver guy. Now, What I do like about his game, he's starting to make those in-air adjustments. He's starting to increase his route tree to be a lot more difficult to defend, and he's making the tough combative catches. Those are excellent. Now, what he does not yet do, which all of those amazing receivers do, is get away with those offensive pass interferences. Why? Because as I stated, if you're a receiver, you cannot push a defender in the upper body. Can't push him in the chest, can't push him in the shoulder pads because they turn and you can see it. The great players, the CD Lambs, the Fitzpatricks, or the Fitzgeralds, Larry Fitzgeralds, Chase, the Lambs, they'll push you right on the hip because you can't see it and it stops your momentum. They'll chuck you on the hip and then they put their hands up and they have space. You don't get as much space as a upper body hit, but for a player of that caliber, that's all the space they need to get their arms up free to make a hit. And a guy that can't jump with him. Worst part of that situation, that guy never saw the football, never turned around on the ball. If he jumped toward the football, went up for it, he would have gotten taken out. Best case scenario, comes down with the ball. Worst case scenario, it's defensive pass interference. And that's what he needs to be better at in this league if he's not going to hip check him low do a hand check low, because you cannot hand check high, and you got to start wearing gloves to match the same color as the jerseys you're playing. That has to happen. Robert, glad to see the Steelers front office doesn't make idiotic trades like the Browns for Watson. Lucky Texans made out like a bandit. And the greatest thing is they've still got to wait a few years before they get those draft picks back. Couldn't happen to a better franchise. Cleveland. Now, I will state, I loved their draft picks last year, even though they didn't have a first. I thought they made excellent choices in their draft, but it hamstrings the hell out of you talent-wise if you do not have a first for 3 years. That hamstrings the hell out of you. Jordan, teams played better after getting stomped the week before. Denver will be ready to play. Can't sleep on them. No, you definitely can't. You can't sleep on any team in the NFL, Jordan. That's why Steeler fans get so upset when we lose to teams with bad records. Because there is no such thing as any bad team in the NFL. On the right Sunday, they're going to kick your ass. They can have everything just click and work. Now, the things that I do like is our defense and the way that we get pressure and the way that now our secondary is playing behind that pressure. That is strictly elite right now. We did it against a seasoned quarterback who is one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL for the past decade that are not Pat Mahomes or Brady. His numbers are exceptional. Absolutely exceptional numbers. Steelers made him look like a rookie. He had quick feet. He was he was indecisive. He was putting up bad balls. Hell, his best completion down the field to Ray was one that Watt hit and was it was fluttering in the air like a wounded duck. And he still completed it. Atrocious. We did everything right. And that was their biggest play. Was off of a play that we made. So no, I'm not worried about, Denver just steamrolling us next game with the way that our defense plays. The only thing that I worry about, Jordan, is that our offense doesn't make mistakes against their defense. Because the way our defense is playing this year, all we have to do is not turn the ball over at all, and we are going to win football games. That's a fun, and I love rooting for defense. Absolutely love it. Scotty! What up, Stryker? Finally found my way back. How about that secondary? We were just talking about it, man. And that secondary is so much better this year. Safeties are locked in. Still not that huge on nickel corner until Sutton comes back. Then we're 100% set when Sutton gets back. Right now, it's still a question mark. Maybe we'll see Trice play some of that slot if in certain situations where he's got to jump on a tight end for nickel. I'd love to see Corey Trice playing tight ends, especially with his size. But love what the outside corners are doing. Love Jackson. Love the fight in that dog, man. I didn't think there was that kind of fight in DJ's game, man. He was great. Absolutely great last game. Should have had 2 interceptions, end up with 2 passes defensed and an interception. Guy was phenomenal. Phenomenal. I'll take that because we need somebody on the other side of Porter. I thought it was going to be Trice, but Jackson is showing he deserves that spot. Absolutely deserves that spot. And it's fun to watch, especially when they have only 3 to 4 seconds to defend. their players because they know we're getting pressure. Miles, now Deshaun Robson. Now I get it. Now I get the Robson. I was trying to figure out. I was like, how did you misspell Watson? Robson. Okay, from massaging, rubbing, Robson. Okay, I got it. Good job. He likes the rub it down. Nick, what happens when Fontenot is healthy? Broderick plays better, and Dan Moore has been playing good. Any chance we put Fontenot at left guard? What would you do with him? He's a rookie. We don't have to do anything with him, but number one, what I do with him, he's the extra tackle on the field and running plays, which we're going to do. And now we're going to have, and that's when we're going to be at our best, in my opinion, for a run game, is when we have Fontenot back on the field with Washington, who I hadn't talked about yet, with his blocking. Holy crap, was he a monster. He looked like a tackle out there knocking people down and keeping elite pass rushers from even moving past him. He stoned them. That's something that a lot of teams cannot do with their tight ends. You can't have your tight end stop their elite pass rusher. Why? Because they usually make you look foolish, go right around you. Washington anchored and stuffed the rush. Loved watching that out of him. And so to have Fontenot and Washington on the field in rushing situations, we starting to get short yards, the yardage that matters, like that stuff's going to be fun to watch. And we're already starting it. Like, I'm seeing more out of this offensive line in this game than I saw out of the previous 2 seasons. I'm more excited about the line now than I am about the previous 2 seasons. It's absolutely fun to watch this line start to play together. They're only going to get better. We actually are doing quarterback sneaks now and getting them. This is fun to watch. Absolutely fun to watch. And I cannot wait to watch it again in Mile High in Denver, where I will take our defense against that offense and that rookie quarterback easily this week. Guys, this is the end of the show. I'm going to just say a couple things here. So if you got any questions or comments, be sure to put them in now. Obviously, like that button, hit that like button, share it as much as you can. Go over to TikTok. I am at SN Stryker on TikTok. Just follow me. Got to get my numbers up so I can start, doing some lives over there as well. But that's some of the part of it. Obviously, go to SteelerNation.com for all your Steeler Nation news. Go on over, click that button for the football forum. We have an awesome football forum where idiots like Robert C. will be over there telling people what they can and can't post. He's the thought police over there at Steeler Nation, but we love having him over here. Thanks, Cooley. We appreciate there. But SteelerNation.com, football forum, one of the best places to talk football when you got nothing else to do during the week, man. It's so fun. Great place to do it. Be sure you're following us, me on my at SN Stryker links. Otherwise, be following at Steeler Nation on X. We got Steeler Nation. We used to be Steeler Nation. Now we're Steeler Nation on X. And we're Steeler Nation com on Facebook and Instagram on the metas. Steeler Nation com. So be sure to follow us across all the platforms, getting all your fun stuff, getting all your information. Also at SteelerNation.com, we do have a button for the terrible tailgate. So if you're going to a game, whether it's home, whether it's away, click on that tab and see if we have a game occurring. Right now, I got to check to even see if we have a game occurring right now. And because we had a great terrible tailgate with Yancey Thigpen and Greg Lloyd in Atlanta last week. They're locals in Atlanta. So we got both of them to come on out. But terrible tailgate, I'm clicking on that right now. Scroll for upcoming schedule. Upcoming terrible tailgates. Yep, we got the Yancey Thigpen. Where's this one? Chargers. So it's going to be next one's going to be the next home game coming up. So yeah, it does not look like we have a terrible tailgate this week. So we'll take that one off. But coming back against the Chargers, we are going to have a terrible tailgate. Chad Brown will be there. 8 a.m. The Steelers lot will open. Red lot 5A. Caddy corner, closest corner to PNC Park. And that's the place to be every day because we got food. We got former players. We got a DJ. We got giveaways. All for I think it's a $75 donation. I'm not sure. It didn't say the number of the donation on this one. I'll grab that number so we know for sure. But it's a barbecue. It's a buffet. It's an open bar. All fun stuff. I'll be popping over there too as well. So you can come over and say hi to me. Terrible tailgate, lot 5A, caddy corner from PNC Park, the closest corner, caddy corner to PNC Park. Guys, that's all the time I pretty much have today. I'm going to go through you guys first because it's your show. We always finish up with you guys. Robert, Washington might be the only tight end who could come close to stopping TJ. I agree. I agree with that. Miles, when I saw Washington pancake Nick Bosa, I knew he was legit. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a stalker. I follow you everywhere. Hey! Uh-oh. I just got to be careful when I text you because then you'll have my number. Oh, great. Miles, Beanie Bishop did pretty well besides that blown coverage TD. Yeah, and that TD was a long TD. They had it for a long time. Coverage broke down. I'm not going to blame it completely. He made the play and made the right read. Had the time to do it. That happens in the NFL. It sucked, but it happened. Shouldn't have had the ball at all. Should have lost it to TJ Watt. But I digress. It's the way it happens. And guys, that's all the time I have on the Steeler Nation for Strikers Inside Slants. Follow me at SN Stryker on the platforms. But until that time, I will be rooting along with you as always. I may do a show because I might be home after the game this week. I may do a show after the game, but we'll see that. But until then, I will be rooting along with you as always. Go